The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
Welcome to the podcast edition of Maximum Growth Live, the #1 program for lawyers who want to grow their practices. Each week, our hosts, Seth Price and Jay Ruane, tackle the fundamental questions about how to grow the profit and profitability of your law firm. To watch the program live, submit your questions, and hear the latest episode, tune in every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook for our live show. Maximum Growth Live is a production of Maximum Lawyer Media.
Welcome to the Thursday, August 27th edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm your host, Jay Ruane. With me, as always, Seth Price. Seth, how are you doing this week?
Doing great, Jay.
So, Seth, we have a phenomenal show today. But before we get to the show, we want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, we're always and have been a member of Maximum Lawyer Media, and you can hear this podcast edition, not only on our standalone podcast, but as part of the Maximum Lawyer podcast. And we are sponsored by FirmFlex, which is my company, social media marketing for lawyers. And we're also sponsored by your company, Seth. Tell us about your company.
Blue Shark Digital. It is essentially a passion play. Our in-house team from Price Benowitz spun into its own digital agency, helping lawyers around the country with their digital marketing needs.
Fantastic. So we have a phenomenal get for our show today. And we didn't really promote it that much because we weren't sure we were going to get it, but we got him. And tell us who we got coming up in the show today, because I think minds are going to be blown.
Coming up today, we got Peter Shankman. Peter is just one of my favorite entrepreneurs. I ran into him in the mid to late 90s in New York when he was starting Geek Factory. And I had left Big Law and had gone to New York to make my millions in the first .com bubble. After starting a company in the music space, I ended up as a founding employee for U.S. Law. And each night, it was crazy. You'd work all day till about 5 o'clock, and then you'd go out to the nicest clubs in New York, and all of these .coms with crazy venture money were throwing these insane parties. And from like 6 to 9, you'd go party hopping. And Peter was a mainstay of this world. We got to be great friends, got to see him through that period. He then, when things were rough after 9/11, hooked me up. He took me out to the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. I'll always be appreciative of that. And watched him build Haro, Help a Reporter, which is still a great resource for link building and PR, something that he sold years ago, did very well with that. He's written several books on business, on ADHD, on consumer-focused businesses, and really has become one of those guys, a sought-after keynote speaker who goes around the country and has sort of helped school business on how to deal with consumers. And it's just a fascinating look. He professes to be faster than normal. And when you hear him speak, he certainly is. So I can't wait to have him on the show.
Yeah, I've seen him speak a couple of times, and I really am looking forward to this interview. There's a lot of great things that we can talk about. But before he's ready, we're first going to bring in Nalini. So let's get her set up next. We're going to, as people know, we've been looking for a name for her segment. We think we found it. It's called Nalini's School of Thought. So after we get done here, we're going to bring in Nalini. She's going to talk about some digital marketing tips. And then on the back end of the show, we're going to bring Peter in for a little more in-depth conversation. And I think both segments people are going to get a lot out of this week. So thank you all for being with us. What we'll do is we'll take a quick break right now, and when we come back, we'll have Nalini with Nalini's School of Thought.
Hey everybody, we're going to focus on Google My Business today. Some of the new features that Google have put out in this past month. They've been kind of busy, still in that same vein of always trying to gather information about your consumers and about the engagement with your business. Google is now allowing you to engage with your business and edit information from your business profile from new sources. So before, you used to have to go and log into the back end of your Google My Business. A few years ago, they started to allow this functionality on the front end so that if you Googled your business name and your address and your Google My Business popped up on the right-hand side of the search result, there was a edit my information button, a couple of other features you were able to edit. You could add photos. Google has now brought this to the Google Maps app, which is a big deal because you don't necessarily have to go log in and be in the back end with the insights and all this extra information. But if you look at your Google Maps as if you were going somewhere and you were putting in your navigation, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see your little Google profile. It's whether it's your logo or your photo. And when you click on that, you have access to your business or all of the businesses that you manage. You can easily add a post. You can change your business description. Some of these very easy functions are available now there. That's brand new as of this month. And one of the cool things that I like is when you go and if you search your business and you see your you can press like directions to your office, but if you see your Google My Business pop up when you type in your business name into Google Maps, you can actually see the number of people that have actually seen this Google My Business over the course of the month. There's actual on-page information and data. So very quick snapshot if you're just playing around on your phone and you want to see how your Google My Business is doing. I think that's really cool. It's a good indication that Google is really trying to get people to log in as easily as they can and to actually update information or to post if you're not doing that yet. Your Google My Business posts are a really good way to interact with your audience. The second thing that we saw that was kind of cool is that there's now the call button on a lot of Google My Businesses on desktop. So we know that when we looked up services on our phones, there would be the call button. You could click it and it would directly call. The way that it's working now on the computers is that right next to website, there's buttons there at the top that you usually see. Website directions, save, there's now a call button. And if you click that button, it will automatically open a pop-up that says, would you like to call from your Android? And there's different apps that you can set up with your phone. If you have a Mac, what it'll do is ask you if you want to call from your cell phone. And so this is interesting, right, because it's on a desktop, but what's really cool is that you're gonna get a lot more data on the back end in your Google My Business Insights now that are actually showing you who's trying to call you when they're at a desktop, right? Before you would only get that information from the mobile. So to have that information from both aspects, more data is power to understand how your consumers are trying to get in touch with you, to make decisions based on, hey, maybe my call volume is pretty high and I didn't realize how much I was getting in here. Maybe I need to do something with my intake, right? So very cool data signals. And then the third thing is something that I wanted to end on, which I thought was cool, and it's headed in the right direction, but not quite there yet. So there's always been this debate about, should I put 24/7 as my hours as a law firm? Because, maybe I stop at 6 and my doors close at that time, but I have an answering service that can totally take intake from anyone who's gotten in a car accident or is having trouble with their family, or got arrested. And so people would put 24/7, but then Google would sometimes see this as spammy. And you've heard other SEO people say it's too spammy, don't do it. You've seen people be able to easily suggest a change, and then it makes it look bad that your profile's lying. So a lot of people have gone back to putting, 8 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever your actual hours are. So there's this new feature that Google just added this month, and it's called online service hours. So they came out with this field a couple weeks ago, but now we're actually seeing it on the front end. So the way that this works is when you pull up your Google My Business on the desktop, you are still just seeing your regular brick and mortar hours. In addition, if it is your online hours, it still marks you as closed. So you see the red word that says closed. You only see your online hours if you click into the more hours section, and then it's underneath. But the thing that I think they're going with here is they're trying to see how many people do work, after hours, or would use that as a feature, would want that to be something that was seen immediately by someone. And I think there's a lot of industries, especially legal, where you guys do have 24/7, you'll pick up the phone, or you have someone dedicated to answering the phone because your clients may need you at any time. So while it doesn't show on the front end right now, it is a step in the right direction that maybe that 24/7 versus should I put my real hours debate will be handled in the future. It's also really interesting because they're starting to put up information about online hours and virtual things. So I'm very excited to see what kind of new items come out, especially with regards to satellite offices and people maybe not having brick and mortars as much. And so I'm waiting for that to break. I know that last summer it was a big show where we all said, hey guys, if you have a Regis or a WeWorks, even if you're like a small, just started your law firm and it really is your office space, you run the risk of being suspended and you could have your whole Google My Business gone. And I know Jay could talk for a while about the huge dip he saw in analytics from when his Google My Business was suspended for quite a while. So if you really look at it, it's really interesting to see that they are looking at people who have online businesses, your offline hours. They're trying to really play to the people who are adjusting to this new way that people have to do business with, quarantine and Corona. So really interesting stuff, new stuff coming up, I'm sure. If you have questions, I'm always here to answer, but we'll keep an eye on some of these new features and go ahead and tinker with it, look at it, see what kind of cool things are on that Google My Business app, because that's a good way for you. Even if you're not tech savvy and you can't sign in, you can go on the Google app. I'm sure you're on the Google Maps app when you're trying to get directions to somewhere, and you can see some of your analytics right there and you can change things. So some easy DIY tips, and I'll be here again next week. If you guys have things you want to hear about, or Jay and Seth have other questions for me, that's what we'll do next week. Thanks.
Well, thanks to Nalini. I mean, always great stuff. She's so knowledgeable about the industry, but we don't want to keep Peter waiting because he moves fast. And I'm afraid that if we keep him waiting any longer, he might hang up. So he's on the call right now. Give me 30 seconds, not even, and let's get him in here now, and we'll take it from there. So 10-second break, folks, and when we come back, Peter Shankman will be with us. Thanks.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Peter's a longtime friend and mentor. This guy has done it all. He's written books. He's figured out how to have steaks delivered to the airport. He has really made business people question and dig deep and reflect upon how they do things. And thank you for that, Peter. On Max Growth Live, we spend a lot of time focused on figuring out, how law firms get to the next level. And I know you have very strong feelings on how the new economy will reshape things as far as need for space. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're still paying for $50,000 a month lease so you could have a fountain in your lobby, you're an idiot. People don't care. I stopped caring where you worked 22 years ago. My first job in 95, I worked for America Online, and they didn't give a crap where I worked or how I worked as long as I got my job done. This is 95. Right. And I remember I moved back to New York and I took a job in a magazine and realized that most people still did care, and that kind of sucked, but they don't anymore. Right. I've written my last 3 books on airplanes to Asia. In the past 20 years, I've met my financial advisor. I've met my accountant in person twice. I don't care where you are. And COVID just sort of accelerated that. Ask yourself, do you really need that office? Do you really need, we managed to switch over to virtual working because we didn't have a choice. And then about 4 months into it, the stories started coming out. It's not as productive as everyone imagined. Well, of course it's not, because you slam people into doing what should have taken 5 years into 3 months. But now that they're there, the ramp up is going to be a lot easier, right? I mean, I have a Regis office just that I had to get because my kid was young and I needed a place to call my own where I could work. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, what the hell am I paying $1,600 a month for? I haven't been there in 3 weeks already. Right. So the question becomes, am I going to renew when the lease is up in June? Hell no. We're at the point now where internet is finally prevalent enough. It's fast enough. The onus to getting work done is really going to come down to the person working as opposed to other things like location or whatever, there's really no excuse not to. I remember in 2008 or 2009, my parents were flying to London for their birthday, or for my mom's birthday, an anniversary or something, I don't remember. And I decided to surprise them, and I flew down and met them for dinner, right? And just because I could. And I still got my work done, I still got everything, done. My clients had no idea. It doesn't matter anymore. And I think that people are at the point where they don't care. Get the work done from a forest in Tanzania or Borneo. It doesn't matter as long as you get the work done. And so I think that we're seeing that. And even in law, yes, you're still going to have to go to court. But 99% of the stuff, my lawyer's still working. He's still doing his stuff. He's just been doing it from home. The funniest thing is, the hardest thing that lawyers have had to deal with is figuring out how to get paid, because no one's in the office to take checks anymore, right? And so I introduced my attorney, who works for a very large firm, by the way, something called Venmo. I'm like, here, this will change your life. By the way, there's also this wonderful thing called the internet, where you don't have to use your fax machine anymore. So yeah, it's
Yeah, so look, I'm going to push you a little bit on this, because look, you built an empire as you. For those people that are leveraging other people, some of the largest companies have tried with with remote work, and some have pulled back, saying, hey, we don't like what we see. Now, granted, this is, as you've alluded to, the Band-Aid is off. People didn't take enough time to put it in place. And with greater thought and technology, more and more can go remote. Blue Shark, for example, remote fully, and maybe for the foreseeable future, and figuring out how to leverage space back. But the question is it going to be space? Will people want that socialization? Is there a serendipity of being together? Part of the reason when I became friends in the 90s is we spent time in the same physical proximity, and we did deals and met people and had opportunities that we wouldn't have had otherwise. Do you think that there is some value, especially in scaled organizations, to having some form of physical interaction, even if it's not 100% of the time?
I think you're confusing quarantine with home working. What do I mean by that? Quarantine means we weren't allowed to go out, right? It means we had to work from our home. Home working means you work from home, or you work from wherever. You want to go into an office? Go into an office. You want to meet at a coffee shop and do some work together? Go meet at a coffee shop. You want to meet in Central Park and hang out and get a tan while you're having a meeting? Go for it. There's a difference between the quarantine that we went through and the concept of working in a way that works for you, works best for you. And that's what people really need to understand, is that the premise of working in a way that's best for you means that it doesn't have to be one way. My favorite story, the baboons in the cage, they put bananas up on the top. One of the baboons gets them, the other four get sprayed with cold water. So the baboon quickly gets the crap beat out of him and learns not to go after the bananas. They take one of the baboons out, put a new one in. He gets the crap kicked out of him before he even gets the bananas. No one gets sprayed with cold water. Eventually, all five are replaced. All five know not to go for the bananas, or they'll get the crap kicked out of them, but none of them know why. And the answer being, well, that's the way we've always done it. Right? So, at the end of the day, you don't have to do that. I'm not saying never meet. I'm not saying don't go into the office. I'm not saying don't have personalization. Right? My kid is going, her school that I'm paying $50,000 a year for second grade isn't starting in person until mid-October, and that's going to not be until January. And yet, but they're having a day, an introduction, a meet your friends again day in September, on the first day, what would have been the first day of school, right? So there are ways to do things. You can't look at it as, oh, it's either quarantine or nothing. When somebody gets their goddamn act together, and we become like every other industrialized country in the world, then the curve does drop, and people don't equate to wearing a mask with their fucking freedoms, pardon my French, then, we'll get it together and we'll see a difference, and we'll see that we can work from anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily. So the rules are going to shift, not because of quarantine. The rules are going to shift because time has brought the rules to shift.
Great. Jay?
Yeah, Peter, thanks so much for being with us. I want to take a step back. I had the pleasure of seeing you at PubCon a number of years ago, and you were talking about your ADHD diagnosis, and you framed it in a way that really hit home for me, in that you talked about it being somewhat of a superpower because your brain works faster than other people's brain. And as somebody with a child with ADHD, I came home from that sort of empowered by your story and by your reframing of the skill. Shared it with my wife, talked to my son about it, and he has really embraced that as a way to sort of look at his skill set differently, and not as a negative, but as a positive. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that, because I think you have a unique perspective about how speed really does matter in the new economy. And what we saw over the last 5 months is those law firms and lawyers that were able to adapt quickly to change have been able to be successful throughout this. So can you tell us a little bit more why speed truly does matter in the next generation?
So, I have written 5 books. One of them is a bestseller on ADHD, right? One of them, and I have a best-selling, an award-winning podcast on ADHD. Pretty much everything I've ever done has happened on an airplane. And regardless of everything, where it's happened, everything I've ever done has been put into place, has been put into motion in less than 48 hours, right? When I came up with the idea for the last company I sold, Help a Reporter Out, I thought about it in an airport. By the time I landed in New York, I had a website up. I was in LA, I flew to New York, I did everything. So, the nice thing about speed, but there was a book once called Perfect Speed is Being There, right? And what I love about that title is that I would change the title, and to what you said, I would suggest that, again, pardon my French, perfect speed is not giving a fuck. And here's what I mean about that. Every bit of success I've had has come because I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to try something. If it works, great. If it fails, I'll try something else. And the amount of freedom you get when you stop caring what other people might think is mind-blowing. And the nice thing about ADHD is chances are we've discovered that years ago. I mean, growing up with ADHD in the 80s in New York City in public school, it wasn't called ADHD. It was called sit down, you're disrupting the class disease. And, having a big mouth and never knowing when to shut up and always racing for that new thing, not knowing at the time, that was my brain trying to fill itself with the dopamine that normal people get automatically. Once I realized what I could do with that, my life changed for the better. And so perfect speed is understanding that get it out, have fun with it. If it works, keep doing it and improving it. If it doesn't work, try something else. And so, I've done some studies. 25% of the workforce is going to be neurodiverse in the next 10 years. So ADD, ADHD, autism spectrum, executive function disorder, dyslexia, you name it. How is your law firm going to handle that? How is your law firm going to handle when 1 out of every 4 employees, is neurodiverse? And by the way, those are the most creative employees you're going to have. Those are the ones at 3 a.m. who want to think of this brand new way to defend the case that no one ever thought of before. How do you make sure you keep them? Right? So it's time to start embracing the concept of speed and quickness and faster than normal and all that as the gift, not the curse that it is. Or, it's a gift that it is, not the curse that people think it is. And sort of the beauty of that is that when we learn how to do that, it takes us in a very different trajectory. I've said this publicly many times that I believe at any given day I'm 3 bad decisions in a row away from being a junkie in the streets, because when you move that fast, there's not a lot of room for course correction. You have to anticipate course correction, eons before you actually get there. And so, there was a study out that said if we could achieve 1/3 light speed, that would be enough to get to other planets. That would be enough to get to, past the sun. But we would have to start slowing down. Out of just 1/3 light speed, we'd have to start slowing down 7 years before we actually got there.
Wow.
Right? Think about that. So, it's sort of the same when you're ADHD is I'm not looking about the next day, 2 days, 3 days. I'm looking about the next quarter century. Right? And that makes it kind of a bitch when you're trying to, when your girlfriend or whatever says, hey, don't forget dinner on Friday, and it's Wednesday, because you're like, oh, okay, what year? But it's there, we have to start embracing the fact that this is a gift, and keep in mind also that neurodiversity, the concept of that faster brain, we don't know what it was like 300, 400 years ago, but chances are Da Vinci had it, chances are Einstein had it, all these people, but we looked at those were the outliers who were the geniuses. The rest of the people were idiots and either wound up in jail or dead or slaves. And so if you look at the premise of it as a gift, we've only been looking at that maybe 50 years, which is 1/1000th of 1 millisecond in the grand scheme of time. 1,200 years ago, we still had 2 forms of life. We hunted and ate after we caught something, or we starved to death, and that was it, right? About 800 years ago, 600 years ago, we discovered agriculture. Or 1,200 years ago, rather, we discovered agriculture. Well, 1,200 years ago, so we started farming. All of a sudden, shit, there was food to eat. We didn't have to go running for it. Well, we've spent millions of years building our brains to give us dopamine after we exercise, to give us dopamine after we run and catch the saber-toothed tiger. Oh, we started running? Let's flood his dopamine receptors so that opens up his eyes so he can see better at night. Let's pull the blood toward his heart and lungs, protect that area. All this stuff. And now in just 1,200 years, you're trying to do that stop, that 7-year light speed stop, because it's not normal. That's not normal, right? And so the concept of hunters and gatherers can eat whatever they want, but the people who are ADHD are still hunters, and we still need that. It's not a coincidence that I'm a licensed skydiver with close to 500 jumps, right? It's not a coincidence that when I get angry, I get on my Peloton, because if I wasn't on my Peloton, I'd probably be doing cocaine. So find the good and find the ways to take that ADHD and that creative brain. Don't push it down. And if you have employees like that, don't squash it out. Embrace it. Let them be crazy. That will the revenue you'll generate from that and the growth you'll experience from that is off the charts.
It sounds to me like a positive thinking firm would actually start recruiting for neurodiversity.
No question about it. I teach companies how to do that. I gave a keynote at Indeed, for God's sake, the hiring firm, on exactly that.
So Peter, we talk about the physical layout changing, and this is sort of talking about the workforce changing. I'd like you to talk for a moment about the client expectation. You've written a lot on, customer service and great customer service. And we've seen in real time when lousy customer service moves an influencer like yourself from one rental car company to another. Talk to us a bit about how you perceive, this new world that we're in, where consumers are now used to Zoom. My parents at 85 can use Zoom. They don't necessarily want to go to an office. Granted, post-COVID that may loosen up. But how should businesses, law firms and other businesses, adapt to what consumers are going to be expecting going forward? So
my father surprised me, 79 years old. My father surprised me by sending me a Gmail calendar invite for a family, weekly family chat. Right? I don't have a lot of family. I have a couple of cousins, my parents, me, my daughter, a weekly family chat. And I'll be damned if we haven't been keeping up with it for like 4 months now. And so, when you don't give people a choice, technology is there. And technology, when used well, brings out the humanness in us. It brings out the best parts of humanness and improves humanness. We have seen stories, horrible stories of parents, elderly parents dying in a hospital bed of COVID with no one allowed to be there. But there's a Zoom, and they can see their face of their parents, and the parents see the face of their kids. That would have been unthinkable 20 years ago. The difference being is that when America Online started, America Online became popular for parents. Let me take that back. When Facebook started, Facebook became popular for kids, college students. And the second parents realized, well, shit, I could save a quarter point on my mortgage if I just click on this Facebook link. All of a sudden, Facebook was for parents, right? And it blew up. So there's always something that allows that transformation to happen. COVID was this, right? We have the technology, and people are starting to realize that it's very useful. The scary side of that, of course, is you have people who are starting to use it, unchecked. It's the same technology that helps bring families together. Unchecked can destroy democracy, and we're seeing that as well. But I do believe that good always wins. And the concept of tech, keep it simple, stupid, still applies. The reason Zoom is working, Zoom is not a digital communications company. Zoom is a marketing firm. Zoom is a marketing company that has a very, very cool product that you can use for free, making you the product, right? I pay for the paid version because it's worth it. It is a good technology, but it's not a technology. It's a marketing firm, right? They get millions of people to use it. Their name is everywhere. They went public. When I've been using my Peloton bike since 2015, and when I bought it, everyone thought I was crazy. Oh, what do you ride at home? And, well, first of all, I hate people, so I didn't want to ride in with a bunch of screaming 20-year-olds screaming out "woo" every 30 seconds. But as I kept using it, I started to see this cult of personality that I hadn't seen since my days at AOL. Right? I mean, I have not seen brand awareness and brand loyalty. I remember I was with a guy named Meyer Burlow, who was the head of advertising at America Online in '95. We were both outside in the back, in the front parking lot of AOL, smoking a cigarette because it was '95 and cigarettes were good for you. And we were out there, and this car comes in. These 5 people get out. One of them runs over to me, hands me a camera, says, "Excuse me, you take a picture of us in front of the AOL sign?" I'm like, "Sure." I take the picture. I give them back their camera. They get in their car and they leave. And I turn to Meyer and go, "What the hell was that?" He goes, "That was brand loyalty." He goes, "I guarantee you those 5 people met in the chat room, and this is their 1 week off from the factory, whatever they work, all around the country for a year, and they decided to meet up and come to where it all started." I haven't seen that level of brand loyalty since I went to a couple of live classes at Peloton back in like February. And you see these housewives who fly in from fucking Nebraska, right? And they're wearing their Peloton t-shirts, and they're there for that 6 a.m. class in the big New York City at the home school. It's unfreaking real, right? But that's where we are. And so when people find something that they can relate to, positive or negative, they're going to blow onto it, and that's where we are.
Well, it's ironic.
I broke down and ordered mine this week.
Yeah, we're getting ours this weekend.
One of us.
Yep, we're becoming you.
I run a Facebook group with about 75 people in it, and we're called Before the Sun, and we're usually on the bike by 4:15 a.m.
Wow.
And it's great because we have to check in every day. Here's my ride, and it keeps you focused.
Something that I've been curious about that I assume is front and center in your mind for a guy who makes his living keynoting at this point. What is the future of conferences? Obviously, if people felt safe to travel, there's still a desire, but are we going to see a pullback just like you might have for in-office meetings? Will certain conferences be superfluous and only ones that really need that tactile human touch? Where do you see that going?
Conferences industry is a $3.2 trillion industry. Worldwide, it's not going to go away. But what you will see is smaller events. You're not going to see Sony send 500 of their people to CES next year when they can send 50 and then do video conferencing for the other 450. Right? So I think that we're going to have to – it's not going to go away. The travel industry is not going to go away. It's going to come back. Right? I think that, you're going to have to be smarter. I've been doing – strangely, my keynotes have actually been going up. I've been doing more keynotes since this whole thing started because companies are willing to, pay 3/4 of what they would pay me to fly out without having to pay for travel to do a Zoom call. Downside for that is that a 45-minute keynote that used to take 3 days with travel now takes 45 minutes, and I'm just so fucking bored. But it's so much damn free time.
How do you write your books if you're not on the plane?
It's funny. New York has turned into a shithole over the past 6 months, especially where I live in near Times Square, Hell's Kitchen, because they've dumped about 4,000 homeless people into hotels here that didn't have any revenue coming in to slow the spread of COVID, which is a problem when they don't tell you about it. I fully believe that we should have help for the homeless, but we should have help for mental health and things like that. But you don't drop 4,000 people into a residential neighborhood without telling anyone about it at all, and that's what happened here. So it's a bit tough right now in New York, and I realized that. One of the reasons I was surviving, I would always survive. I'm born and raised here. One of the reasons I always loved New York was because I would never be here for more than a few weeks straight. I'd always be going somewhere, right? So you travel somewhere, and it's sort of a reset. And so now I'm at the point where it's like, my God, I've been here 6 months. If I don't leave soon, I'm going to start firebombing. So it's been tough. But yeah, the conference industry is not going away. We'll see it come back.
It's not going to go away. What changes do you see?
Yeah, smaller conferences, a lot more video. The first company to come out with really, really good holographic imaging, like 10 times better than Tupac. When you come out with that, that's going to be it. Big companies will invest in that whole infrastructure, and everything will be holographic. And then why the hell do you have to fly them anywhere? I think that the big losers are going to be commercial real estate and airlines.
Jay?
I definitely think commercial real estate is poised for just a dump, over the next decade. I would not be wanting to be one of those guys holding massive amounts of commercial real estate right now because I think it's going to be a problem. One of the things that I think, Peter, we should talk about a little bit when you're trying to gain the attention of a consumer is the fact that over the last decade, 20 years ago, 1995 or wherever we're talking about, you had some cable TV, you had your network TV, and and the internet started coming around. Now we've got, Netflix and Prime and now Quibi, and we've got the attention span of the consumer has just dropped minimally because there's so many different resources to pull that attention away from the marketing message. How do you think businesses that are trying to grow can compete in a economy, in a world where the attention span has dropped precipitously?
Become a better communicator. The attention span used to be, it was 60 seconds, and it was 3 minutes in the 50s. No, I screwed that. It was 6 minutes in the 50s. It was 3 minutes in the 80s. It's about 2.7 seconds now. So if you want to become smarter, learn how to better communicate with your audience. Learn how to talk to your audience. Learn how to understand that your audience can be very useful to you if you communicate with them the way they want. Ask them how they like to get their information. Give them their information the way they want. Become a better communicator. Become a better writer, for God's sake. Don't make stupid errors. Be brilliant at the basics. I had a client, or a company rather. There's a company in New York, Kidville.
We got one of these.
Yeah, you bring your child, you drop them off. It's like socialization when they're really young. If they throw them in a ball pit, I think they leave them there for a couple hours. You pick them up. But I remember the first time I brought my daughter there, I was a little scared to do that, and I dropped her off. She seemed to enjoy it. I picked her up. She had all her fingers, all her toes. I was happy. I said, okay, I'll bring her there tomorrow. I get a letter from them that night. Dear Mr. Shankman, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to bring Jessica to visit with us today. Well, my daughter's name is Jessa, not Jessica. Right? You had one fucking job. Okay, how can I trust you to keep my kid alive if you can't spell her damn name? So it's stupid little things like that, right? Just become better at the basics. Ask your audience how they like to get their information. Give it to them the way they want.
If you were prognosticating for somebody right now, we've been through all different platforms, right? Google Plus to Facebook, TikTok exploding. If you were somebody from the business side looking to find audience, I know it's a very general question. What are you bullish on right now? Where would you be putting weight over the next couple of years?
I would be putting weight on wherever your audience happens to be. I can't answer that. Only you know where your audience is, but I would say that video will be primary, wherever that is. But on the flip side, if your audience is on the go and constantly running around and only, maybe and they're driving, maybe it's only audio. Ask your audience how they like to get their information. Give it to them the way they want. They'll tell you. They are dying to tell you. Just ask them.
Jay?
Yeah, that's really interesting because over the last couple of months, I've been home, so I've been waking up in the middle of the night and saying, hey, let me try this, and I'll do like Peter's done. It's just get to work and doing it. And one of the things that we found is we actually had some video ads running on the social media platforms. We cut those things down to 6 seconds or so, and now we're getting full engagement, and we're actually getting a better return from a 6-second ad than we were getting from a 30-second ad because people are clicking through so much more because we've piqued their interest. And I just think and now we're realizing that that's what the consumer wants. They don't need a 30-second story as to why they should hire you. They want to know how to hire you when they need you and just be everywhere.
You have such a short window. Right, such a short window.
Yeah.
Why not reach out at the right time, get the people, and again, just ask them. They'll tell you what you need to know.
So, Peter, I have another idea that I figure I'd run by you because it came to me in the middle of the night, and it's for lawyers who want to grow their practice. And one of the things that I think lawyers tend to do errantly is they try to be everything to everybody. And one of the things that I've thought about doing recently was instead of trying to market my firm to everybody from age 18 to age 90 is say, I'm going to own a decade. So I'm going to start marketing heavily to the 30 to 40-year-olds. And then next year, I'm going to market to 31 to 41. And then the year after that, 32 to 42. And I'm going to try to own this decade of people and avoid diluting my message and going wide and just really starting to just focus narrowly on this one decade of people and stay with them through their journey. Do you think that has any value or any possibility? Or do you think that's just a crazy idea that I woke up at 3 a.m. and I shouldn't even try that?
There's nothing wrong with trying it. I mean, again, try everything, right? I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket, but sure, if you become, I know someone who's the feminist lawyer, and she only takes cases that have to deal with feminism, right? I know someone who's this lawyer, that lawyer. Again, there's nothing wrong with finding your niche. Of all times now, niche is huge, but don't do it in such a way that you throw yourself down and lock out everything else.
Great,
well,
Seth?
Peter, Yeah, no, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Any final words for of inspiration? It is I refer to it as an emotional roller coaster. There are days where like, yeah, we're rolling. There are days like, I visited New York and I'm like, we're kidding ourselves. This is saw what you're
Well,
talking about before.
I mean, look, I appreciate you having me on this what this 874th day of April. It's a it is a crazy time. The one thing to keep in mind, as my beautiful 7-year-old daughter jumps into frame, is that life is short, and we can have a lot of fun. The rules are gone. There pretty much are no more rules. So have a good time, enjoy it, right, and try something new. What's the worst that could possibly happen? It fails and you do something else.
I love that. What a message. The rules are gone, and just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I love it. Hi, Jessa. I remember her name.
Yeah.
You did. All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Peter, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Well, Seth, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, that I probably need to slow it down. Normally, I listen to things at 2 times speed. I think that's something I have to slow it down and go at half speed just to sort of wrap my head around everything that Peter gave us. What were your thoughts?
No, my thoughts exactly. I've known Peter for a long time, heard him speak as you have many times. And whether I'm speaking to him in a small group of 2 or 3 people or hearing his keynotes, I always find that I need to digest the information because there's so much packed in there. He is thinking faster than most of us. And the idea that he has put thought into what's going on. And for most of us, we're sitting there with our day-to-day businesses and putting out fires, maybe trying to plan for the future. But to have somebody whose full-time job is sort of figuring out and thinking about dynamic changes, I find incredibly valuable. And the idea that you can sit and stew and reflect upon what he sees from where he sits as a guy who is plugged in socially as well as anybody, as well as somebody who then touches all of these different major businesses through keynoting, the perspective is just invaluable.
All right, so let me ask you this question because we talked a little bit about with Peter. Have you already ordered the Peloton? Because I placed my order yesterday, so it's coming in a couple of weeks. Are you getting yours?
We did it midway through COVID. It shows up tomorrow morning.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's going to be great. So maybe one of these days we can get a clip of you. Are you going to join his Before the Sun Club?
That is not my mojo. I think I will be the afternoon ride. I'm already told that there are playlists that I need to find. This was driven by my wife. When we went to a birthday party, a 50th, not that long ago, we were the only couple at the table that had not bought in. So we were sort of like the last holdouts in our friend group. But I think COVID has shown us that there are days you can't get out, and it appears to be, if it incentivizes you to exercise, always about gyms, whether it's a cheap gym or expensive gym, if you go and use it, it's worth every penny. And I feel that like the Peloton, while not inexpensive, if it gets you to exercise, it is great. I just hope it doesn't become a clothing rack like other exercise equipment can be. But everybody I know has it, loves it, and can't wait to drink the Kool-Aid and join in.
Yeah, for me, I work out a couple days a week. Now I've been doing it through FaceTime with my trainer, but I got a full weight bench and I'm doing that stuff all through COVID. I haven't really missed any of my appointments. But one of the things that I'm terrible at is cardio, and it's because cardio is boring to me. So I'm hoping, like Benji Bronk, I am able to, get into the whole cardio with a group thing, even though, like Peter, I kind of hate people sometimes. So the idea of being with people but not having to actually be with them is somewhat appealing. So mine will come in months, I think. I got to check, but they're so backlogged. It's amazing. But it's interesting that you talk about how it's something that if you get it and you use it, you're going to get something out of it. That leads me to talk a little bit about one of our upcoming episodes, which are going to be our top 10 growth hacks for 2021, because this episode is going to be phenomenal. And I guarantee you, of the 10 ideas, you're going to find 2 or 3 that you can use, you'll love, and you'll be able to use them successfully in 2021. So be on the lookout for that episode coming up in a couple of weeks. I think you're going to really get a lot out of it. But I think that's going to do it for us. Great stuff from Nalini, as usual. I mean, Nalini's just a gem. And of course, just wow stuff from Peter that what can you say? He's just he goes a mile a minute and he gives you 2 miles a minute with great ideas. So I think we should end the show there, Seth. We're a little shorter than normal, but that's not a bad thing.
Well,
We'll let
that's
people get
because we
onto
had
it.
somebody who was faster than normal. It condensed
Right,
it.
exactly. He was going 5 miles. He was going 5 times the speed. So that's just that just makes sense. But with that, I'm going to let you guys know if you want this podcast edition, you can go to MaximumLawyer.com. You can also get it on any one of the major podcasting platforms, Maximum Growth Live. We'd love you to join our Facebook page. Just follow us so you can get up-to-date information. I send out invites every week, so you'll be reminded about the show. If you have any questions, drop us a note down below in the comments section. We'll happily talk to you about that. We are looking for people for a hot seat. We've done a couple of them in the past, but we're looking for a couple more people. So if you want to have your growth issues addressed by Seth and by me live on a show, please put your name down below. Tell us what your growth challenge is, and we'll get you into a hot seat very soon. But for that, Seth, I'm going to leave it. Any final parting words?
No, go out there and crush it.
Absolutely. That's just the way to, I think you got to take the approach that Peter has. When you decide on something, go for it and go all in. So that's a great message that he gave us today. And I think everybody do it. So we'll say bye for now. We'll see you next week for another edition of Maximum Growth Live.
Thank you for listening to Maximum Growth Live. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast for the latest episodes and tune in live on Facebook every Thursday for our live show. For more information, visit Maximum Growth Live on Facebook or MaximumLawyer.com, and be sure to share us with your friends.